Walk into literally any corner store on Earth and you're going to see it. That gleaming red cooler just beckoning you. It's familiar, right? It's comforting. But welcome to this explainer, where today we are unpacking a deeply unsettling analysis of the global beverage industry. According to our source material, massive brands haven't just achieved unparalleled cultural colonization, they are actively operating what the text calls a slow-motion poison delivery system. So we're going to look at the data, the marketing, and the physiological science to understand exactly how the processed food industry profits from a product that, as the source argues, is fundamentally making the world sick. Open happiness. I mean, we all know the slogan, right? It promises joy, connection, a moment of refreshment. But the source document argues that this friendly, aspirational marketing is essentially a giant smokescreen. Behind that cheerful red and white ribbon lies a century-long, highly calculated campaign to flood the human body with unprecedented quantities of sugar, all while externalizing the catastrophic health costs straight onto the public. So it really begs a central question. When you crack open that cold can, what exactly are you consuming? Is it just a tasty beverage, or is it a carefully engineered substance? To answer that, we have to understand that the beverage industry isn't really in the business of just feeding or hydrating people. According to the text, they are employing armies of chemists and sensory researchers with a very specific, very deliberate goal. Let's dive into a fascinating and honestly kind of terrifying industry concept. The bliss point. According to our sources, this isn't some natural property you find in, well, actually, you don't find it in nature at all. It is a manufactured, weaponized design parameter. Every product on the shelf is calibrated to hit this exact precise concentration of sugar. And why? Because it maximizes the neurological reward and effectively overrides your brain's natural satiety signals, those crucial signals that tell you, hey, you're full. What I found so striking in the source analysis is how bluntly they phrase it. This isn't about feeding people. This is about drugging them to compel repeat consumption. And just how much sugar does it actually take to hit that bliss point? Check out this number, 65. A single 20-ounce bottle contains 65 grams of sugar. That is roughly 16 teaspoons. Just to put that into perspective for a second, that single bottle, which most of us just casually drink as a quick snack or to quench our thirst, contains more added sugar than the American Heart Association recommends a human adult consume in an entire day, in one bottle. And the brain scans on this are wild. Functional MRI studies show that this level of sugar consumption activates the exact same dopamine reward pathways as nicotine and cocaine. When rats and animal models are given intermittent access to sugar and then deprived of it, they don't just get a little hungry. No, they display severe physical withdrawal symptoms. We're talking teeth chattering, forepaw tremors, and head shakes. The industry heavily tracks what they call craveability, knowing full well, as the source argues, that they are marketing a highly psychoactive substance. Section 1. Hooking the next generation. Creating customers for life. The source identifies the targeting of children as the absolute most vital strategy for the industry. Think about it. If you can hook a kid on sugar early, you calibrate their palate from infancy to crave extreme sweetness. For decades, beverage giants sign these exclusive pouring rights contracts with school districts. This tactic literally turned public schools into sugar distribution nodes. The companies got a captive audience of young, highly developing brains, and school administrators got a cut of the revenue to plug their budget gaps. And if you zoom out to the global stage, the strategy adapts. In developing nations, the marketing sells these drinks as a symbol of modernity and Western affluence. But the reality on the ground is what public health experts call the double burden. Entire nations struggling with both malnutrition and skyrocketing obesity at the same time. The source specifically points to Mexico, a country with historically massive per capita soda consumption, where the drink is woven into cultural rituals and literally given to infants. Consequently, Mexico is now facing some of the highest diabetes mortality rates on the planet. Section 2, the science of denial, borrowing the big tobacco playbook. Now take a look at this quote from the Global Energy Balance Network. Back in 2015, a huge New York Times investigation revealed that this network was actually an AstroTurf group, secretly funded by the industry. Their entire mission was to push one specific message. It's not about the food, it's about the move. They essentially funded ostensibly independent scientists to tell the public that obesity was strictly a lack of physical exercise. It effectively gave consumers permission to drink all the soda they wanted, right? As long as they hit the gym to work it off. The source calls it out as pure corporate propaganda dressed up in a lab coat. So the really crucial point here is the methodology behind the madness. The source maps out this exact four-step strategy, and it is completely identical to the one Big Tobacco perfected back in the 1950s. Step 1. Fund research that confuses the public. Step 2. Recruit highly credible academics as paid allies. Step 3. Manufacture doubt where actual scientific consensus already exists. And finally, Step 4. Use that manufactured doubt to delay regulation by loudly demanding more studies. The analysis argues that the playbook didn't go away, the poison just passed from one industry to another. Section 3. The hidden body count. Measuring the true cost. The numbers here are just staggering. 184,000. According to a 2015 study in the journal Circulation, sugary drinks alone are responsible for at least 184,000 adult deaths globally, every single year. These are premature deaths from diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and cancer. And the text notes this is actually a super conservative estimate because it doesn't even count the years of suffering, the dialysis, the amputations, the blindness. And it certainly doesn't count the kids developing adult-onset type 2 diabetes. There is a very grim economic reality at play here. The beverage industry has successfully privatized the profit while completely socializing the suffering. The shareholders and the executives, they reap the massive financial rewards of the sugar boom. Meanwhile, the catastrophic healthcare costs, those are dumped right onto individuals, their families, and already completely strained public health systems, especially in developing nations. Section 4, the environmental poison, beyond the metabolic toll. I want you to take a second to just absorb this number. 120 billion. That is the number of plastic bottles Coca-Cola alone produces every single year. A massive, massive fraction of this just ends up in our landfills, our rivers, and our oceans. The brand has literally been named the world's largest plastic polluter for multiple years running, and eventually these bottles just break down into microplastics that re-enter our own food chain. That pristine red and white branding is hiding a massive ecological trail of damage. Because beyond just the plastic, the water extraction required for the bottling process has caused severe groundwater depletion in places like India, leaving local farmers totally unable to irrigate their crops. Meanwhile, expanding industrial sugarcane cultivation is driving aggressive deforestation and displacing indigenous communities across Latin America and Southeast Asia. The environmental footprint literally compounds the harm being done to human health. Section 5. The illusion of choice. Deflecting the blame. Now, you might be thinking, well, they're pivoting toward healthier options now, right? But the source material urges us to look a lot closer at what it calls a calculated hedging strategy. Many of these heavily marketed juices and supposedly natural teas actually contain sugar levels totally comparable to soda. They're just hiding under a health halo. And what I found really fascinating was their aggressive push into artificial sweeteners. Because even if those are benign, it serves a huge strategic goal. It keeps your brain's neurological template habituated to intensely sweet flavor profiles, so you stay a customer. The source points out a highly cynical maneuver here. The industry absolutely loves the phrase personal responsibility. They constantly claim their products can be part of a balanced lifestyle, putting the blame for obesity squarely on your own lack of willpower. But the text totally dismantles this. How on earth can you claim personal responsibility when you've engineered an addictive substance and then saturated the environment with it? The source literally equates this to the logic of a drug dealer blaming an addict for a lack of restraint. They also love to argue that sugar is natural. Okay, let's look at the actual science. The sugar in a soda is not the same thing as the sugar in an apple. Whole food sugar is bound up in fiber and micronutrients. The industry, however, uses industrially refined, super concentrated liquid sugar that completely bypasses the body's normal satiety mechanisms. As the analysis states, dose matters and context matters. Equating an apple to a processed soda is just scientifically dishonest. Section 6. The systemic reality, a metabolically incompatible business model. Ultimately, the fiduciary duty of a publicly traded corporation is to maximize shareholder value. The source makes a great point. It argues that the executives aren't uniquely evil people. Rather, it's the very architecture of corporate capitalism that makes prioritizing public health economically irrational for them. Their business model is quite literally metabolically incompatible with human health. But a reckoning is starting. From really hard-fought soda taxes in Mexico to new warning labels and mounting global litigation, the corporate narrative of innocent citizenship is absolutely crumbling, and it's closely mirroring the historical downfall of Big Tobacco. Yet the pace of justice is agonizingly glacial compared to the pace of the harm actually being done. The question isn't really whether this industry will be recognized as a modern public health disaster. It already is by so many experts. The final, provocative question the source leaves us with is this: how many more bodies will pile up before this recognition finally translates into definitive global action? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope this changes how you look at the next beverage you reach for.